Everyone in the courtroom believed she was weak. She stood quietly with her eyes lowered, wearing a simple dress that looked old and faded. People whispered that she was lucky he even married her once. Her husband sat across from her, confident, smiling like a winner. He felt powerful because today he was ending what he called his biggest mistake. He never once looked at her face with respect. To him, she was just a poor woman he had outgrown. What no one knew was that her silence was not fear. It was control. Because long before this day, she had learned how to hide pain behind calm eyes. Years ago, she had walked away from a life so wealthy, so protected that no one would ever believe it. And now the man mocking her had no idea what storm he was signing away. She remembered the first day she met him. She had been working quietly in a small office, trying to live a normal life. He had noticed her because she never spoke too much and never showed off. To him, she looked simple, easy to impress, easy to control. He liked that she did not ask questions about his money or his status. When he proposed, people laughed and said she had won a lottery. No one knew she had already walked away from a fortune bigger than his dreams. Her real family lived far away behind walls guarded by loyalty and secrets. She had left because she wanted love, not power. She wanted a husband who chose her, not her wealth. At first he treated her kindly, but as his career grew, his respect faded. He started comparing her to rich women, glamorous women, loud women. Slowly his words became sharp, his silence cruel. And one day he decided she was no longer good enough for his future. After the wedding, her life slowly became smaller. She stopped wearing the few nice things she owned because he said she did not suit them. He told her rich people laughed at women like her, so she should stay quiet. She learned to smile softly even when his jokes cut deep. At family dinners he spoke over her, ignored her opinions, and mocked her background. He liked reminding everyone that she came from nothing. Each word pushed her further into silence. But every night alone she remembered the life she left behind. A childhood filled with private tutors, secured estates, trusted guards, and a father whose name could shake markets. She remembered how her real family begged her to return when they heard how she was being treated. Yet she stayed because she believed love meant patience. She believed one day he would see her value. What she did not know was that his greed had already blinded him. He had started chasing wealth, status, and attention from women who saw him as a stepping stone. And in doing so he was unknowingly insulting the legacy of a woman who carried more power in her blood than anyone around him. The day he asked for divorce came suddenly, but not unexpectedly. He spoke calmly, like a businessman closing a bad deal. He said she was holding him back from a better life. He said he deserved someone richer, smarter, and more impressive. She listened without interrupting because she had already cried all her tears in silence. When he placed the papers in front of her, he smirked and said she should be grateful he was being generous. He mocked her clothes, her background, and her future. He said without him she would struggle to survive. She looked at the papers, then at his face, and for a moment felt nothing at all. Inside her, something old and powerful finally woke up. She signed without hesitation, shocking him. He laughed loudly, proud of how easily he had erased her. What he did not realize was that by signing those papers he had cut himself off from protection, influence, and a fortune that could have changed his destiny forever. After the papers were signed, she walked out of the courtroom alone. No tears fell from her eyes because she had already accepted the end. People watched her leave and whispered that she would regret losing such a successful man. He stayed behind, shaking hands, smiling proudly, already planning celebrations. That same evening she returned to her small apartment and packed a single bag. She removed a hidden phone from the back of a drawer, a phone she had not touched in years. With one deep breath she made a call she once promised never to make again. On the other side of the line, a familiar voice went silent, then emotional. Within minutes private planes were prepared, security teams alerted, and long-buried files reopened. While her ex-husband toasted to his freedom, she was already on her way to reclaim a life the world was never meant to see. By morning powerful names would begin asking questions. And the man who mocked her would soon realize he had divorced far more than a quiet woman. The next morning the city woke up to quiet movement. Black cars arrived at private terminals, names were whispered in boardrooms, and old alliances stirred back to life. She sat calmly in a private lounge wearing the same simple clothes while powerful men stood waiting for her words. Her father had built an empire that stayed hidden from the public eye, controlling industries through silence and trust. He had taught her that real power never announces itself. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady and clear, asking only for dignity and closure, not revenge. But the people around her heard more than words, they heard authority returning. Meanwhile, her ex-husband woke up late scrolling through messages bragging about his freedom. He had no idea that the company deal he was counting on had suddenly been paused. Calls went unanswered, meetings were cancelled, and unfamiliar names began appearing in his emails. Confusion turned into irritation as the world he trusted started shifting beneath his feet. And all of it traced back to a woman he believed had nothing without him. By afternoon, he began noticing the changes in his world. Banks that once approved his loans delayed responses. Partners who had always smiled at his demands suddenly became cold. Investors who depended on his deals pulled back their support. He tried calling contacts, but many numbers went straight to voicemail. Panic began to settle in his chest like a shadow he could not shake. Meanwhile, she walked through a private office filled with screens showing his empire, his deals, and every weakness he had ever ignored. She did not need to shout, she did not need to threaten. Every move she made was calculated and precise. She remembered all the nights he laughed at her, all the insults, all the times he made her feel small. But she also remembered the promise she had made to herself as a child to never let anyone take her dignity. And so she worked silently, watching the man who thought he had power crumble before the legacy she carried in her veins. By evening, news began spreading quietly online, but powerful circles noticed immediately. The man who divorced her found himself blocked from investments, frozen accounts, and cancelled contracts. Emails that once poured in begging for deals now returned undeliverable. He tried calling friends only to be reminded that loyalty had limits. Every phone call ended in confusion, every meeting in silence. Meanwhile, she walked through a luxurious office she had once only seen from a distance. Her father's advisors bowed slightly, not out of fear, but respect for the woman who had returned. She reviewed documents that revealed hidden wealth accounts, charitable foundations, and properties around the world. Each page reminded her of the life she left behind, not for greed, but for love. Her father's empire had always been quiet and invisible, but now she was ready to stand in it. And the man who mocked her for being poor realized too late that he had underestimated not just a wife but a force shaped by generations of power and secrets. By nightfall, he was pacing in his penthouse apartment, surrounded by luxury, yet feeling emptier than ever. Messages from lawyers arrived one after another, contracts revoked, deals cancelled, assets frozen. His pride and arrogance could not stop the panic rising inside him. He remembered the courtroom, the smirk on his face, the way he mocked her. And now every laugh he had shared with friends seemed foolish. She, on the other hand, stood in a mansion that had once been only a memory. She walked through halls filled with priceless art and treasures accumulated over generations. Her father watched quietly from behind the scenes, allowing her to reclaim what was rightfully hers. She did not gloat, she did not need to speak. The walls themselves seemed to whisper her return, her power, her dignity. Meanwhile, he realized the woman he thought was weak had been untouchable all along. She had played no games, she had done nothing wrong, she had simply waited for the right moment. And that moment had arrived with unstoppable force. The following days were filled with quiet chaos for him. Every business call felt like a trap, every meeting a test he was unprepared for. People who once smiled at him avoided eye contact. The friends he counted on vanished one by one. He tried to understand what had gone wrong, but the answers were hidden in plain sight. She, however, moved with calm precision. She signed papers that expanded charitable foundations, she controlled assets, were transferred quietly, investments stabilized, and allies aligned. Her life was no longer defined by what he thought of her or by the mockery she endured. Instead, it was defined by knowledge, patience, and strategy passed down from her family. She had chosen dignity over revenge, but the world around her now bowed to her influence anyway. And he was forced to watch from the outside, realizing that every word he had ever used to belittle her had only delayed the inevitable. She had grown stronger while he had wasted time thinking he was clever. One evening, she visited the small apartment he once called their home. It was empty now, but memories lingered in the corners. She remembered laughing softly when he first proposed the idea of love. She remembered crying alone when he mocked her quietly behind closed doors. Yet she also remembered the promise she had made to herself as a child to never be broken by anyone. Standing there, she whispered quietly to the walls that had once trapped her. She forgave him not because he deserved it, but because she no longer needed to carry his cruelty. Meanwhile, he sat in a high-rise surrounded by wealth yet feeling hollow. He checked the news and saw her name mentioned in major deals, charitable acts, and philanthropic foundations. The woman he had humiliated quietly controlled more influence than he could ever imagine. Pride and regret battled inside him as he realized the life he had mocked was the life she had quietly reclaimed. And she was no longer the timid woman he thought he knew. She was unstoppable. She was respected. She was free. The day finally came when he reached out to her, hoping to negotiate, to explain, to reclaim what he thought he had lost. He sent messages, emails, even tried calling, but she did not respond. She had no interest in reopening doors that had once trapped her. Instead, she focused on her work, her empire, and the people who truly mattered. Her father watched proudly from the sidelines, knowing she had learned patience, strength, and strategy better than anyone. She had built alliances quietly, helped communities, and strengthened her position without arrogance or malice. And slowly the man who once laughed at her realized the truth. Power was not measured by wealth alone. Respect, loyalty, and intelligence were far stronger currencies. He had mocked a daughter of a trillionaire, unaware that her legacy could not be broken by his words. She had moved forward, leaving him behind. And for the first time he understood the weight of underestimating someone so quietly formidable. Years passed, and she became a legend, quietly respected in business circles and admired in her community. The man who once mocked her lived with the memory of underestimating someone he thought was weak. She never sought revenge, but her success was the answer to every insult he had ever thrown. She visited schools and charities, sharing lessons about patience, humility, and strength. Her story inspired many who believed they had no voice or power. Her father finally embraced her, fully proud of the woman she had become. Every decision she made was guided by wisdom, courage, and kindness. And one evening, as she looked out over the city from her office, she smiled softly. She had endured pain and mockery, but emerged stronger, unshakable, and free. The life she had once left behind had shaped her, but never defined her. And the man who thought he could control her had unknowingly unleashed a woman, unstoppable, respected, and unstoppable. She had reclaimed not only her dignity, but her entire destiny.